We have been studying this incredible book called Awakening Joy, 10 Steps that can bring real happiness, put you on the road to real happiness. And well, I've used and abused every one of these lessons this week, so I'm here to speak to the part that helps us remember and wake up when we're all together. We said that the most important thing is to pay attention to our intention to awaken to joy. Because we're always paying attention to something. And whatever we pay attention to, we attract to ourselves, and more of it comes our way. When we pay attention to our intention to awaken joy, we begin to see things we haven't seen before, hear things we haven't heard before, and be aware of what we've been missing. One of the participants in the course on Wednesday night said, I had no idea there were so many moments of joy that I was missing that I'm now seeing. How many more moments of joy that were happening in my day that I was not aware of. Just by putting your attention to pay attention to joy and be mindful and present in the moment, something changes. The affirmation that I got that you can have, you can use, you can steal, please do. It went like this for this week. It says, I'm answering the call. We're always answering a call, by the way. God, life, everything's calling you all the time. How you pick up the phone, how you answer it, makes all the difference in the world. I am answering the call to be present in joy. One day, one moment, one breath at a time. Is that a good one? I am, say it with me now, I am answering the call to be present in joy. One day, one moment, one breath at a time, because that's all you get. One day, one moment, one breath at a time. Mindfulness brings us to the awareness of this moment. When you begin your practice, we begin with our body and being mindful of our body. Being mindful of your body when you're in pain is an interesting process because Maureen has had very real physical pain in her wrist. Very real pain. The pain is very much there all the time. It eases up for a bit, it's better, but it's there, it's painful. And we've gotten the lesson once again that pain is physical, but suffering is optional. Pain happens at the level of the body. There are many people who are experiencing pain now in this room at the physical level. Yes, and if you're not, you know someone who is, or you might be. Pain is very physical, but the choice about how we see it, the suffering that comes from it, is our option. I really think that Maureen's been taking on the pain, and I've been the one that's been suffering more from it. You know this, Jim. You know, she's dealing with the pain because you have no choice. When it's that clearly there all the time, you are in your body. You don't need to worry about being mindful and practice mindfulness. You are aware of being mindful of your body. There's a book, if you all remember it, here I go again. If you all remember it, that was natural, called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. Do you remember back in the 70s? In it, he talks about two different ways of being in the world, how you can approach your life. There is expansion and contraction. That's what's going on all the time. You're either contracting and reacting, you know, holding it in, tight, fear, it's contraction, or you're expanding, expansion. You feel expansion, the difference? The Buddha called it wholesome and unwholesome states. And you can decide by being aware of that expansion and contraction reaction in yourself what you choose to give more energy to. So when you're in a contractive, reactive space, you can just be aware of that inside of you and then make a choice to, even in the middle of it, in spite of what's going on, expand in the midst of that into those wholesome states of mind. And you can bring more of those states of mind into you when you're aware of them going on inside of you. That's why the body is such a great teacher, because you can use it to ground yourself into the present moment. Contracting. I know what contraction feels like. I know when I feel that in my body. If I'm present enough in it, I can feel when I'm doing that. And I also know what expansion feels like. Oh, yeah. Oh, I hope when you come here you get expanded, right? That's the hope, that you leave here a little bit bigger than when you came in. It's not that you need to be reminded of that, but you do need to awaken to it. And that's when joy comes in, when you're in that expanded state of consciousness. It opens you up. It opens you up. We went to a physical therapist on Monday, which was just a few days after Maureen had had the surgery. And it's quite a, oh man, it's a cut. It's big. It's huge. It's there. You know, when I first saw it, I felt myself contracting, you know. Ooh, wow, that's big. And then it was like, but wait a minute. I can breathe. Healing is happening. Thank you for healing. You see the difference between a contracted, reactive state and an expansive one. Got it again on Monday. We went to the physical therapist where they were going to start moving her wrist around and putting on that little blue cast that she has, fitting it to her hand. And the person who was the physical therapist had zero people skills, no connection at all. This person was not there. We were not there. We were just a bunch of body parts sitting on two chairs. And I felt myself in a reacted, contracted state of mind at this person's non-willingness to see that there were human beings sitting here. But there was nothing in that moment I could do about that except be aware of that contracted state of mind. Just be aware of it. And then breathe, expansion. Yeah, breathe out, expanded state of consciousness. This person is this person. This person is doing what they do. They may have been like this for years. They're probably seeing 50 patients a day. You know, we're just another one of the list of people that they're seeing. My reactive state of consciousness was not about this person. It was about my choice of what to do with my own internal life. And I began to see her in a whole different way. Just be able to see that behind that contractive state, the insomnia that we both walk around in, the quiet desperation of most people's lives, are not who they are. That's just a contracted, reactive state of mind. She says in the book, from one of the participants, who happened to be you and I, let me find my little glasses in here. When we're in the car, my husband and I often quibble about which route is the fastest. The other night, I was about to yell at him when he was driving, but I stopped myself. I'm taking a course on awakening joy, being mindful. It's only Monday, and I've already forgotten what I got taught on Sunday. Take a few deep breaths. We've been down this road before. That's the road I'm used to going down. I said to myself, hey, self, I don't have to act on these thoughts. I don't have to say what I'm thinking. And then I started noticing the way my breath felt going through my body. I ended up feeling more relaxed. I didn't care which stupid street we went down. I don't want to go down that street no more. And I found a huge wave of peace coming over me. Friends, that's the miracle of mindfulness. It just happened right there. Never mind walking on water. What about being present for the life you're walking in now? Here, now. That was a moment of miracle-mindedness. Bringing it into the moment. Feeling the contractive, reactive state. Being present with it. Not getting lost in it. And then expanding into something much larger. This has a huge effect on how you enter into and how you live in the world. And it's not just for those of us who have a fairly cushy, easy life. It's working on the front lines of practice in difficult situations. Here it says, you breathe out and in. Kate has been teaching mindfulness to children at inner city elementary schools as part of a program called Mindful Schools in Oakland, California. Many of the students are from poor families who live in neighborhoods plagued by violence. In a survey of 4th grade class, listen to this, 40% of the children knew someone who had been shot, and 70% knew somebody who had gone to jail. The challenges these students experienced daily became clear when Kate asked her 1st grade group to practice being mindful of sounds they hear at home. Some of them came back reporting gunshots, people screaming, the police at neighbors' doors. These little children are experiencing many traumas all the time. But these kids have so much potential. They're so smart, and I can see that with the right tools, we can bring out and find love and wisdom right inside of them. And so she uses the same stuff you and I are practicing now, mindfulness awareness of their thoughts and feelings. And she said they're like sponges. When they start to realize how their minds work, that instead of being present, they're sometimes in the past, sometimes in the future, it gets very exciting. Well, one little boy came up and said, Miss Kate, I've just had some future thoughts. They're building new neural pathways by paying attention to what's going on inside themselves. She's allowing her students through mindfulness to deepen their interaction with other children. These kids are understandably dealing with a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, and so they show up strong and hurt people. This is their survival mechanism. By learning mindfulness, they can see the difference between feeling an emotion and acting on it. We talk about mindfulness and how you can squeeze in between the two, between feeling and acting. When you feel the sensations of the emotion in your body, it's a cue to create that space, that spaciousness, by maybe taking a walk or breathing or telling someone, give me a minute. And when they break that anger cycle, something else happens, something else shows up. In fact, one student shared this during the summertime in between classes. I got really angry at my brother and decided to go get a weapon. That's how they're taught to resolve their anger. That's what they've seen others do. And he remembered, what he learned the previous year at school. And he actually stopped, paid attention to his breath and his emotions, and never did pick up that weapon. He became a gentleman without weapon. Isn't that wonderful? We need more of this in the world. He let go of that impulse, and something very different happened. So these tools of mindfulness that help these children who live in these terrible environments can do the same thing with you and I when we're trapped in negative thoughts. Whether you and I are holding on to the belief that the world is dangerous, as many of these inner city kids have learned, or the expectation that life, especially if you're a new thought student, should always be pleasant and something is wrong. I'm not manifesting my perfect relationship. How can I possibly attract sickness to myself? Blah, 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 blah. Makes God want to throw up? You create instead a space in you that lets go of these blind, reactive, contractive states and lets you expand into something even greater. And the space between the feeling of it and the acting out of it is humongous. It is so huge and so filled with the possibility for illumination. I sat on the computer and typed in Google search for Vipassana Insight Mindfulness Meditation in prisons with hardened criminals, people who've never learned mindfulness techniques while they're going to grade school, who basically felt something inside and then immediately projected the anger on the outside. They have taken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these hardened cases, taught them the practices that you're learning in this room right now. Sitting, being aware, not acting and reacting from everything you feel inside. And literally, these hardened criminals are changing their relationship with everyone in the prison because they've changed their relationship with their self. And my friends, we're all doing time, friends. We're all imprisoned by our own habit, thought, word, deed patterns. And my friends, we're all behind the bars, right? Ding, 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 it's me again doing what I do again. And the way out is the way within. And the work that you and I are doing are helping us do that, show up in that way. And we need this in the world right now. You look at the people who want to be president of the United States screaming and yelling at each other on television, but ready to have a fist fight. And you really realize this is what happens when we don't do this inner work. How important it is for us to grow up and show up in a different kind of way. The Bible says the government of the world rests upon his shoulders. Guess who those shoulders are? The government of what world? The outer world? No, your inner world. The government of your own inner world of thoughts and feelings. This is what we need to. This is what we are doing and dealing with right here and right now. It's a sweet practice, my friends. And you're doing it not just for yourself, but for other people as well. Every time you don't react and contract, and be aware. Then expand, get bigger. A new neural pathway is created in you, and then all of a sudden, come what may from inside of you, from that space comes joy, comes a smile on your face. I actually got through that, and I didn't do it the way I usually do. Heaven on earth. Yes, in that moment, heaven on earth. And people say, well, that's great Buddhist stuff, but this has nothing to do with Jesus. I want Jesus in the Bible. Well, guess what, folks? Jesus was the master teacher of dealing with reactive, contractive states of consciousness. He took on every reactive, contracted state of consciousness, and he said, bring it on. Pilate, you have no power over me unless I give it to you. I could send down a legion of angels and stop all this, but I won't, because I want to show you there's another way for you to perceive yourself in the world. Your inner world makes all the difference. And it all came on, and he said, Father, Mother God, Spirit Principle, all that is, I am and I am, forgive them. They're children. They don't know what they're doing. And that moment of awakening, that contracted moment, expansion happened. And literally, a new way of being was spread out through the whole planet. Charles Fillmore says, race mind consciousness was infused with the Jesus Christ powerful consciousness of making a different choice in your life today, and you and I can join in that spacious conscious awareness. Anytime we choose to practice in our own little simple way every day, to be aware of what's going on inside of us rather than projecting it outside of us, and we create a new world. I'm telling you, it's changing the world. It may not look like that, but I'm telling you the work that you're doing because you're here, because you signed up for it, because you said, I'm going to answer the call to be present in love and joy, one day, one moment, one breath at a time. I will not be perfect in my practice, but I am going in this direction because there ain't nothing else to do here. When you are aware of that, that spaciousness blesses you in so many ways. So let's go to our lesson summation. I'll stop yelling and screaming. So how do you know when you're in a contracted or an expansive state? Well, people who are part of the book, the book said it this way. Contracted states of consciousness, it's like you find this. It's hard to breathe. I want to go away, curl up somewhere. It's like I hate everything. And a little sick to your stomach, that's the symbols in your body of what's triggering a contractive state of mind. When you're in an expansive state of mind, what do you notice? Well, every one of my cells feels like it's smiling. I love that. Feels like it's smiling, yes. I feel unafraid and open. I feel connected to the people around me. I feel warm and happy, and I also feel like crying, which surprises me. I see oftentimes in the service, people will start crying while they're here. And what they're crying for is for what they're missing in their life. Because you just get a glimpse of your expanded state of consciousness, and a part of your heart just cracks open. You say, how much have I been missing? This life I'm living is unbelievable, and I've been missing it. But now you're showing up for it. In the book, he calls it this, building your happiness muscle. You can actually strengthen the happiness circuits in your brain. Whenever you're experiencing a moment of joy or contentment, walking, listening to music, watching a sunset, being kind, feeling grateful, don't miss it. Pause to notice the feelings in your body and the state of your mind. Do you feel warm in your chest? Tingling through your body. Does your mind feel light and open? Now consciously intensify that feeling. Most psychologists call this memorizing the feeling. Either way, you're causing the same neural circuits to fire repeatedly, therefore strengthening it. In a book by Rick Hanson called Buddha's Brain, and I got to get that one, he calls this taking in the good and suggests that first intensifying the experiences in your body, then you let them calm down, and then you intensify them again. And as with any positive state of mind, see if you can develop a strong sense memory of the experience and the feeling of that in your body. Because most of the time, we spend so much time over concentrating on contractive reactive states, trying to deal with them, that we're not aware of the expansive, incredible states of mind that are happening more times than not all day long. We don't remember it. We don't feel it. How are you feeling right now? I'm eating this food. Isn't it delicious? For that moment, you say thank you for the feeling I'm having now, the food I'm eating now, the person I'm sitting next to, the hand that I'm holding, the beautiful life that I'm living. You begin to feel what that feels like in your body, and you create a new neural pathway that brings more of that feeling to you, more of that healing happening through you, and you literally change and rearrange the world. One day, one moment, one breath at a time. So together, I am answering the call to be present in joy. One day, one moment, one breath at a time. Let's sink that into the cells, release it from the atom of your being, join with the spacious content of the beloved teachers and masters and sages of the ages, answering the call to be present in joy. One day, one moment, one breath at a time. I don't know what contractive, reactive situation you're involved with now, but the practices of expansion into this moment, by just being aware of that which tightens in you, in that moment, loosens that tightness. You begin to expand your spiritual muscle. In the same moment, feel the joy that comes from awakening to who you are. In those little tiny moments throughout the day where you do just that, answer that call. The government of your own inner world rests gently upon your shoulders. My sweet friends, then others will call you Wonderful One, Prince of Peace, Holy Comforter. This is why we're here. Thank you for answering that call. And bless you in your practice, not for yourself, but for all others we practice together. Namaste.